Could you all please rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zimpless.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Can I welcome you all to the City of Perth agenda briefing session for February 2023 and formally declare the session open at exactly 5 p.m. I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Western Australia, and pay my respects to elders past and present. It is a privilege to be standing on Whadjuk Noongar country. CEO, can I ask you please to recite the prayer?
Almighty God, under whose providence we hold responsibility for this city, grant us wisdom to understand its present needs, foresight to anticipate its future growth, and grace to serve our fellow citizens with integrity and selfless devotion. And to thee be all blessing and glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. Nice to see so many people here tonight. Nice to see the band back together and all 9 elected members present for the first of our agenda briefing sessions for 2023 already. Please note that in accordance with Council Policy 1.4, this meeting is being live streamed and the recording will be made available on the City's website following the meeting. We'll go through the attendance now. As you heard, a full house. Item 3 is attendance. Those in attendance are Deputy Lord Mayor Liam Gobbett, Councillor Sandy Angie, Councillor Di Bain, Councillor Clyde Bevan, who was late sitting down, Councillor Brent Fleeton, Councillor Rebecca Gordon, Councillor Victor Coe, and Councillor Catherine Leeser. In addition, I welcome the Chief Executive Officer, other officers, and members of the public, or any members of the public or media in attendance or watching at home or from the comfort of their desks. There are no councillors on an approved leave of absence, and I will remind councillors to please submit any applications for a leave of absence prior to next week's ordinary council meeting. As you know, I typically save announcements by the Lord Mayor for the ordinary council meeting, but I will just take a moment, and I've had a fair bit to say already about the Auditor General's report into the administration of the Perth parking levy, but I'll just say this for tonight, for now. I want to thank all of the members of our community, our ratepayers and property owners who have contacted me on behalf of our elected members and City of Perth Council to thank us for our advocacy, our strong advocacy in this area and in regards to the Perth parking levy and the administration of the fund. I know many of you are aware of what the Auditor General's findings were. In effect, no proper justification for the levy to continue to be charged, no proper consultation, no proper planning, and in her words, not up to scratch. There'll be more for me to say on this, but I did particularly want to thank the very significant number of our property owners and ratepayers who reached out to say thank you to us for our advocacy on the Perth parking levy, and I appreciate them on all of our behalves. I appreciate them very much doing so, and we will continue to fight the good fight in regards to the Perth parking levy. I just wanted to give you some numbers as well, which have come from our teams, multiple teams. 2 weekends ago, we know there was a spectacular combination of state government, local government, private providers and private promoters coming together, and we had the UFC, St Jerome's Laneway Festival at Wellington Square, Sting up at Kings Park, and the Chili Peppers and Post Malone across at Optus. That resulted in 110,000 people attracted into the core of the city on that weekend. It was a really good number, and it was the highest February night footfall for the last 3 years. So that combination of state government doing lots of heavy lifting, City of Perth chipping in and doing what we could with Wellington Square and the Laneway Festival, and private promoters also bringing great acts to the city, is really coming to the fore. The RAC crowd was a new record for the RAC Arena, so fabulous. And the crowd that we attracted at Wellington Square, 14,000 people, it was the same number actually as the UFC attracted, so at opposite ends of Wellington Street. 28,000 people at two venues in our city. And that crowd at Wellington Square was the biggest crowd at Wellington Square since it has reopened. The retail core was busy as a result, and on the Saturday, more than 11,000 people walked past the iKiosk where we take the census on Murray Street, and over 3,500 people attended the Hawkers Market in Forest Place on Friday. So that's really encouraging. A great events program that continues in these warmer months. We play our part. We know that others are playing their part. And in terms of us playing our part, Saturday night Elizabeth Quay numbers. These are worth mentioning. The biggest four crowds at Elizabeth Quay on a Saturday night. New Year's Eve, the biggest, over 10,000. Saturday the 19th of November last year, our November drone show on the Saturday night. Saturday the 19th of February 2022, that was our City of Light anniversary show, over 7,000 people. And then the show just gone on Saturday night, also over 7,000 people, well over 7,000. So that's 35,000 people on on those 4 Saturday nights. And why that's significant? Because that's 35,000 people that previously did not have events to come to. Those 4 events were created by the city from scratch. And we should be very proud of the role that we are playing in activating Elizabeth Quay and bringing people into the city. And I know that I would like to reach out and thank our events team, our sponsorship teams, and all of the administration who are responsible for helping facilitate that broad program of events, some of which we directly deliver and others which we facilitate through other members of our community. The city is in great shape, and it's been a very enjoyable place to be over these summer months. So we'll move to item 5, and that is disclosures of interest. CEO, have any disclosures been received?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes. Councillor Catherine Leeser, under item 11.6, has disclosed an impartiality interest. She is a member of the Heritage Council. Councillor Clyde Bevan, in relation to item 11.6, he has declared an impartiality interest. He has known Jim Leeter since 1978. He has also indicated a declaration in relation to 18.1, Causeway Pedestrian and Cyclist Bridge, and an indirect financial interest. He has had a business discussion with Neil Irvine, the owner and proprietor of On the Point complex, with regards to providing entertainment at his complex. In addition to that, Councillor Brent Fleeton has disclosed an indirect financial interest in item 11.5 as Capricorn Mutual, owner of the building at 28 Trude Street, West Perth, is a client of GT Communications. Councillor Brent Fleeton has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 11.6 as Cox Architects are the architect of a project they are both working on. Councillor Di Bain has disclosed a proximity interest in item 11.4 as the building owner donated to her election campaign in 2020. Councillor Di Bain has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 11.6 as the founders and partners of the company are known to her socially. Councillor Di Bain has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 14.2 as there's a reference to a company called JB Legal. She has a familial link to this company. Her husband's son-in-law is a partner of this firm, and his cousin is providing services to the City of Perth and has done so for the past 12 months or more, and he does not receive any financial benefit from the work she does as a consultant.
Thank you very much. Thanks, CEO. Were there any? Yes, Councillor Angie.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I also have an impartiality interest in 11.6, which is lot 500 Murray Street. I met with Jim Leaders on one occasion prior to October 20 and on one occasion since the election, and I met with Greg Howlett and other partners and people at Cox Architects on an ad hoc basis in my capacity as a member and president of the Institute of Architects.
Thank you, Councillor Angie. Are there any further paperwork coming up? Any further disclosures? No? Thank you. Okay. Are we there? Okay, that's right. So, item 6 is 6.1 public questions, and public question time will be held at the ordinary council meeting next week. So 6.2 is deputations. And CEO, do we have any deputations tonight?
Yes, Lord Mayor, we have received 3 deputations in relation to items 11.6 and 12.2.
Thank you, CEO. So can I remind those that are giving deputations tonight, there's a 5-minute limit for deputations. And if councillors have any questions in relation to the deputation, we will invite those at the end. A reminder, though, that if councillors have any questions for the admin in relation to the items as they are discussed, we'll ask you to reserve those until the item is tabled for questions later on our action-packed program tonight. So deputation number 1, I'm going to invite Fernando Fungo. I haven't said that right, have I? Fernando, how do I say it? Forno. Fernando Forno, representing Cox Architects, who's speaking for the officer's recommendation in item 11.6 to come forward. Fernando, welcome. Thank you. 5 minutes. If you could just state your name and address for the record, and then 5 minutes will be yours.
Thanks, Your Lord Mayor. Fernando Forno, Director of Cox Architecture at 360 Murray Street. Your Lord Mayor, can we hand out some...
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Okay, all right. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. I guess today we're here to discuss condition 1. We're grateful that council or the councillors have approved the development application. There is a condition to maintain the existing floor level to tenancy 2, which is on the first page of the report, highlighted in the red dotted line. It makes reference to the floor being of significance. The drawing that you're looking at the moment is from the conservation plan, and there are basically 3 types of areas of significance. There's areas of considerable significance, that of some, and that of little significance. And the area of little significance is the blank circle or square at the bottom of the page, and that is in reference to all the floors across 2 buildings. So I guess that's an important consideration, that our proposal is in line with the conservation plan. We'll talk a little bit about that now. The next series of sheets, I guess, are just trying to highlight at a very high level the alterations that have occurred over the years. So if we turn to the facade entry sheet, the image on the left is from 1947 and the image to its right is the building today. It did have a raised floor. It had stairs coming in from Murray Street, which have now been lowered, or the floor has been lowered. The first half of the floor has been lowered, and as a result, the entry itself and all the windows in that facade have been lowered in line with the conservation plan to reflect the lowering of that floor. The next page refers to the floor itself. So half of that floor has been lowered. As I said, it used to be at a higher level, but that's been lowered over the years, and there is now a step within that tenancy from that lower entry to the upper portion of the floor to the south. So that's in line with the conservation plan. The conservation talks about the floor of being of little significance. Also, altering the existing fabric was the introduction of a ramp and a series of stairs. That's, again, in line with the conservation plan, and that was renovations that occurred in the 80s, the Old Country Road building, resulting in this tiered floor plate from Murray Street. So there's nothing at grade, but altering the existing fabric and also, I guess, the clarity of the previous function. And then the final sheet refers to the new structure that was inserted. There was a mezzanine added to the floor plate. So the columns highlighted in blue are the original columns, and those in red are new columns that have been inserted into the floor plate. As a result of inserting those columns, obviously this floor structure has been amended and altered, which under the conservation plan it can be because it is of little significance. and that image to the right, the photograph, shows how that new column has cut the existing floor beam in half. So I guess in summary, the final slide refers, which have also been amended to allow an at-grade access and from that dropping of the floor. So I guess in summary, you can see from the alterations that have occurred over time, they are in line with the conservation plan. They have allowed the floor to be lowered and interrupted. The existing fabric has been altered, and I guess more importantly, the clarity of its former use has been changed quite significantly as a result of these changes. What we would like to propose, and Paul will talk about this in a little bit more detail, is a lowering of that upper level, so you have an 8-grade access from Murray Street. And I guess that's important in terms of future-proofing the building, attracting high-end tenants, as the Fendi are looking at this particular tenancy, and that's something that's important to them, rather than introducing further intrusions into the space through lifts and so on. And I think in terms of future-proofing, it then connects Murray Street to Wolf Lane at grade, rather than having that ramp which occurs off Murray Street. So we're asking councillors to consider the deletion of condition 1 and allowing the floor to be lowered. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Bang on 5 minutes. Well done. Beautifully timed. I'll invite any questions. If you might just like to stay there for a moment. Are there any questions from any councillors? Fernando, you may or may not be the right person to ask, but do we know, you mentioned who might be interested in coming to that site. Do we know what the effect of the floor that we're talking about not being deleted or lowered, as you've indicated, what the effect on that high-end retailer coming to Perth might be?
Yeah, they have written back and said they won't take the space unless the floor is at grade. So that's a commercial decision that the owners need to make. But they love the building, they love the external facade. That has major significance, and that's what we're focusing our refurbishment and repurpose on. But for them, it's important to have at-grade access throughout the whole building, rather than having further stairs, ramps, lifts, etc., to deal with that change in level.
Okay. Are there any further questions from any councillors? No. Fernando, thank you. Well done. Much appreciated. We're going to now invite Paul Kutsoglo, representing Planning Solutions. Familiar face in the chamber now, who is speaking for the officer's recommendation in item 11.6. Paul, if you'd be good enough to state your name and address, and then 5 minutes will be yours as well.
Lord Mayor. I'll refer to you as Lord Mayor rather than your worship.
I liked both, actually.
Yeah, well, it's a habit, and it's a good habit, I think. Paul Kutsoglo. My office is Planning Solutions at 251 St George's Terrace, a Centuria building. Parties associated with this project behind this job. Lord Mayor, councillors, officers, members of the public, we seek deletion of condition 1, pure and simple. The reason we do that is to ensure one level of access from the footpath to the back of the building. Importantly, we've circulated, that's my office, has circulated to elected members and officers a briefing note. The briefing note outlines the reasons for our request. The commercial viability of the space is negatively impacted. Now, as part of the deemed provisions, as part of your decision-making process, commercial viability is only one of a number of factors to be considered. Condition 1 restrains the use of the site. Importantly, it restrains universal dignified access to the whole of the premises. It's an important consideration, and I ask you to take that decision carefully. We say independent dignified access is an important consideration for everybody. And as I get older and my knees get weaker occasionally, I realise the value of that. But also take my parents out from time to time and watch them struggle with the various levels. Importantly, we have a report that makes reference to condition 1. And one of the key points in that report is that there is no legislative requirement for the building to be altered to satisfy the access requirements of the Building Code of Australia, and we acknowledge that. But we say that that misses the point. It's inappropriate to disregard the creation of accessible spaces when taking other factors into account. And those heritage factors, in our view, the reuse of the existing flooring materials, the appropriate refurbishment of the roof, the retention of the poles, that the columns in the centre of the building, are all matters that our submission states are important and combined to warrant the justification to the reduction of the 1.8 metre high floor level to the same level as at the front part of the building. And those people that were able to attend the meeting today know what I'm talking about in terms of having that continuity to the back of the premises. Our client, of their own volition, in 2010 had John Taylor do a conservation management plan. Importantly, that conservation management plan assessed this area as the lowest level of significance, the lowest level of significance. There were 3 levels. This building is not of state significance, but it is on the local authority register. But we say the modifications we're proposing are sufficient and warrant the variation to the level, because you walk into this building and it's 6 foot high, about 4 or 5 metres into the building. It makes that space more difficult. And I think somebody made reference to when we used to go and purchase our chambray search, over one side of the building, there'd be another side of the building that you had to mount a series of steps, and it made it untidy and difficult to use. We say that this development provides appropriate access arrangements. There is an obvious need to balance heritage, access and economic considerations. Bringing a new high-end retailer to the city has its positive attributes. There will be people that don't think that that's a good idea because the city should be inclusive for everyone. We say this provides diversity. Our client and Fernando, Cox Architects, have been involved in the refurbishment of the Commonwealth Bank building, Cox Architects building, the old Jim Kidd building, the Flour Mill building, I think it's number 7 Queen Street, and a series of other buildings. There's no perfect solution to a planning determination. There's always matters to be considered. It's not engineering and it's not mathematics. But what we say is the social considerations that this provides, with the security for the premises, with the positive contribution to the built form and the streetscape, this project brings things to the city that we say will be positive. We ask for your support. We'd be delighted for the removal of condition 1. The work that was done by John Taylor
5 minutes now, Paul.
Thank you. The work that was done by John Taylor Architects identifies this site, this component, as the lowest level of significance. So we'd be delighted for the removal of that, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kotsoglu. Are there any questions from any councillors? Deputy Lord Mayor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Mr Kotsoglu, could you just clarify a statement that I think you made towards the start? You said that the proposal is for the at-grade from the Murray Street level completely all the way through to Wolf Lane. Where in the plans is that?
To Wolf Lane. I didn't say to Wolf Lane. I said to the back of the premises.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions from anybody? Mr Kotsoglu, thank you.
Thank you, Lord
Much
Mayor.
appreciated.
Councillors.
We're going to move now to invite Ms Elsie Blay, representing Rua Community Services, who's speaking for the officer's recommendation in item 12.2 to come forward. Elsie, welcome back. 5 minutes on the clock. If you could give us your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Elsie Blay from 255 Hay Street in Subiaco. Thank you. I'd like to speak to you about the importance of extending the Safe Night Space service, which without action will currently end in May. We know that homelessness in the city of Perth is a significant issue. The impact of Safe Nights closing without any similar service will have a profound impact on the growing issue in the city. In January this year, we've had 112 women who have newly needed our service. So they're new women who have presented for referral in our service. RUA and the city have worked together to support hundreds of women, women who were rough sleeping and came to Safe Nights and who are now in permanent housing. Safe Nights has been a huge success. And together, the City of Perth and RUA, we've responded to the need. And where it began initially as a shelter for women, it's now providing far more than that. Safe Nights is a legacy for the City of Perth, and it's made a substantial contribution. Let me talk to you about the impact. A 6-month extension of the Safe Night space would support over 1,000 presentations. This is women of all ages who are escaping violence, escaping domestic violence and violence off the streets. In 6 months, we expect to take 3,000 referrals from emergency services, hospitals, and our city crisis partners. The impact on Royal Perth, WA Police, Rangers, and other city homelessness services will be large if we shut Safe Nights in May. The homelessness crisis in Perth is affecting the whole community. The rising cost of living has been seen firsthand at Safe Nights. We're seeing women who, for the first time, might have an income, they're working, but they're unable to secure affordable rental and find themselves on the streets and seeking support at Safe Nights. With hospitals, rangers, and police all under the pressure that we know they're under, Safe Nights works to ease this pressure. This pressure will certainly increase if Safe Nights closes. In January, we received a total of 700 referrals for Safe Nights. There is no alternative to Safe Nights. It's the only service of its kind. So we do know that housing's coming online, but that doesn't mean we don't need to extend this service. We need multiple solutions to addressing homelessness, and our joint service together is one of them. We are asking for an interim solution and an extension of Safe Nights. We all understand that the residents, business owners, and City of Perth community want to reduce the problem in the city. And we're clear that closing Safe Nights will only add further to this problem. Let me talk to you about some of the outcomes. Safe Nights pilot is working and it has had success far beyond the intended measures. It's doing everything that we all asked for and far more. It's had a significant impact in giving practical solutions for women to turn their lives around. Like the woman who's recently started TAFE and now has a job in hospitality. The woman who's back with her kids and staying away from drug use. The woman in stable housing now working in a cafe, and another woman who's now linked in with disability supports and is getting her life back on track, committed to being healthy and seeing her parents for the first time in many years. Safe Nights has had a huge impact for hundreds of women. So in conclusion, we can all agree that homelessness in the city is a problem that we all need to take responsibility for to shift. In the 18 months, RUA have worked with the city as strong partners to support many, many women get into permanent housing, and it's something we should all be proud of. The Safe Nights extension is crucial, and there's urgency in this as we begin next month to transition out of the service as agreed. Safe Nights has a large impact, and we look forward to working with the councillors for your continued support in an extension.
Elsie, thank you. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you and the RUA team for your work over the almost 2 years to date. And I know I speak on behalf of everybody on council and indeed everybody at the City of Perth to say that we are extremely proud of the city's role together with our partners RUA in the Safe Night space and the impact that it has had on our community. And in the papers that we have that we're regularly able to see, I want to just point out that our facility opened for a 2-year trial in May of 2021, May of 2021. Following the opening of the Safe Night space, which the City of Perth led the charge on, Court Budja has opened in Northbridge in July of 2021, a 30-bed facility. In August of 2021, Bullabiddy Maya in Wellington Street, 100-bed capacity but operating at 65 beds, opened. In November of 2022, St Bart's added an additional 18 beds. We've very recently heard, of course, that the Homelessness Minister, on behalf of the state government, or the state government, have purchased that facility in Murray Street, and it's proposed that that will be opened in 2023. All of those facilities did not exist prior to the opening of the Safe Night space, and I think we should be very proud of what we have been able to demonstrate can happen, and it has been, pleasure is not the right word, but it's been extremely gratifying to be able to work with RUA to deliver the outcomes, Elsie, that you have outlined. So I just want to say that on behalf of all of us, that we acknowledge the great work of RUA and we're very proud of the contribution that we've made in this space. We note also that there have been delays to common ground. We don't think that's been helpful at all in this space. We appreciate that there have been circumstances that have not allowed that development to go along nearly as fast as it should have. And 112 units will make a significant difference in this space. And we believe now we're looking at a delivery date from the state government of early 2025. But I think what I'm outlining is that a number of new facilities have opened since we opened the facility at the Safe Night space, the Rod Evans Centre. Can I ask the 30-bed facility, the Murray Street facility, do you know what sort of operation that is going to be? I appreciate it's a state government facility and it's out to tender, but as part of the sector, have you been given any oversight about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like me to speak to it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we know that Murray Street is an absolutely important solution, but to be really clear, it solves a different need than Safe Nights. We know Safe Nights is crucial for the gender-specific lens and the women we see escaping domestic violence. We expect Murray Street to be full with people who are using other services. So Housing First and the Heart City Outreach Program will be people who are having a different need, and we think definitely that Safe Nights is in addition to this because it meets a different need and the capacity is far exceeds the services that we have online.
Elsie, we are considering you've asked us to support the extension and we're considering a 6-month extension. Would that be a useful period for RUA who provide the services?
That would be, Lord Mayor. As you say, there's housing coming online and we know that that's important. At the moment, the timing just doesn't line up. Yep. And that if we transition out next month, the clients have a gap in knowing where to go, staff, the service winds down, and then to restart a whole new service. We're a trusted pair of hands. It'd be far better for the community and the clients if we could continue until we've got a more sustainable option. And
so 30th November would assist in that?
Definitely. It would give us time to be able to look at more sustainable options and plan with the city and state government to look at what we're doing next.
Okay, that's excellent to hear. Thank you from me. Are there any further questions from anybody? Yes, Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Elsie, are you able to provide any more context regarding the cost increase based on, in comparison to the original, tendered price? Because it's almost a 50% increase, and I understand RUA have been bearing that, but I'd be keen to understand what's the difference between what you thought you were going to do and what you've had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cost increase is due to 2 things. So the responding need of what we've seen. So the increase in acuity in the way clients are presenting, and that's from things like alcohol and drug use, acute mental health, and I think, the complexity of you look at for us to be able to have a service that meets the community need, we've needed to put people in there with additional expertise. One of those is on-site leadership. So having someone there who's a leader who can make decisions and keep the team safe and keep the client safe with that additional expertise is something that we didn't anticipate when we were modelling the service on it being a shelter. So thinking that when we went to tender with this, we were looking at basic supports of a night shelter where people could stay the night and be safe. But really, to meet the needs of the things we're doing, we've got the counsellor there tonight, managing some of the absolutely critical incidents that are happening, the financial counsellor, the disability navigator, and extra case management. These are the things that really make the difference in being able to get people housed and support them to maintain their tenancy. So those extra costs are the expertise of the staff we need to really have the outcomes that we've seen.
Thank you, Elsie. Any further questions from any councillors? Councillor Bain.
Thank you very much, Elsie, for coming tonight. My question is around the 6-month extension. Will we get to November and will RUA be able to negotiate a longer term? Do you envisage that as being an option, or are you prepared to just accept that that's, you know, a sunset date that's going to happen?
I think for all of us, Rua and the whole community, we all need to work to make sure funding's sustainable for this service. I think there's no doubt that the need for it is clear. We are definitely working with, you know, all different options to look at how we can secure sustainable funding, and we have been, you know, up until this date. I definitely don't see November as the service shuts. I would be committed to looking at how we can find funding to prove the outcomes and show the ROI of what it's, you know, making such a difference. So we're working really hard to look at all avenues, and would love your support to, you know, show that work.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Bain. Councillor Angie.
I guess following on from Councillor Bain's question, have you looked at alternate locations, or is that specific location you're fixed on staying at?
Definitely not fixed at that location. I think for an extension, the importance of it staying is that continuity for the clients. We know that change in terms of, you know, word of mouth and how things are communicated for the rough sleeping population, it's really beneficial that it's there. No, I don't think we are committed to being one site. I guess that, you know, we're grateful for the City of Perth to provide that site for us, and it's been fit for purpose in terms of the space and the location. So open to other suggestions, but no, we haven't located another address.
Thanks, Elsie. Any further questions from any councillors? Elsie, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks to Paul, and thank you to Fernando also.
Thank you.
We're going to move now to item 7. Well, 7, 8, 9 and 10 will be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting next week. That's confirmation of minutes, questions by members with due notice given, correspondence and petitions. So we move to the reports, and as we move through the reports, I'm going to ask if any councillors have questions in relation to these items. Firstly, 11, Planning and Economic Development Alliance reports. 11.1 is the renaming of Nelson Avenue, East Perth to Ceylani Avenue. Do we have any questions on this item? Thank you. We go to 11.2, the Draft Council Policy 3.5, initiation of planning scheme amendments. Councillors? 11.3 is the request to name the driveway between Government House and Council House, Teresa Wally Lane. Do we have any questions, councillors? Thank you. 11.4. Councillor Bain, well, actually, we'll just see if there's any questions first. The request to name the laneway connecting Murray Street Mall and William Street to Moolap Kanana Lane. Do we have any questions here from any councillors? Councillor Bain, stay where you are. 11.5, City Planning Scheme number 2, the final adoption of amendment number 48. Councillor Fleet, and I note indirect financial interest, but we'll just see if there's any questions first. No? Thank you. Item 11.6 is 307-313, lot 500 Murray Street, Perth, a proposed internal and external alterations to the existing building. Just before we deal with questions, I'm going to request, please, an alternate recommendation to delete condition 1 be made by the administration for presentation and consideration for council next week, please, if I could. Thank you. So I note that there was a question from Councillor Leeser. Councillor Leeser, on that one?
It's been answered, Lord Mayor, thank you.
And are there any further questions from anyone? Yes, Councillor Fleeton.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Apologies I couldn't attend the inspection today, but to the city, why was 1 specifically listed from the city's point of view?
Thanks. CEO.
If I could invite the General Manager, Planning and Economic Development to respond, Lord Mayor.
Through you, Lord Mayor. So I guess initially when the application was assessed and a range of people had a look at it, so our cultural heritage planners and our planners had a look at it, given the significance that they believe the tenancy has, they would prefer for all the existing floor levels to be retained as they were. Given the access issues that the applicant did mention, we did take that into account because that's one of the issues raised under clause 67. And we felt that a compromise would be to allow some of the demolition to occur, but to retain the bit that we felt was most significant. And I think that this, according to our cultural heritage planners and architects, was considered to be the most significant piece of the tenancy because it told the story of the original use.
Yes, Councillor Fleeton.
Just a follow up, please, Lord Mayor. Have you seen the presentation from Cox that we were given?
Through you, Lord Mayor, the CEO provided it to me this afternoon.
Okay. In the follow up, Lord Mayor, in the report that you write on the Lord Mayor's alternate, can we just get some commentary on if this is correct or? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gordon.
I guess same sort of line of questioning. The deputy gave a map which has a legend with a hierarchy of significance for heritage considerations. So whether the admin at this stage have any response to the floor level being of little significance, or if that can be provided in the latter report.
General Manager.
Through you, Lord Mayor, I guess the feeling of the admin is that that piece of flooring is significant enough that we would take the position that we've taken, which is not an easy one to take in the context of the bigger redevelopment proposal, but I can certainly provide additional feedback on that.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from any elected members? Yeah, Councillor Bain.
Can I just get a clarification? Is what we're saying in this site, and I didn't go to the tour today, so apologies, but I have said to Jim that I'm a previous frequent shopper at Country Road, so I'm familiar with the property. What we're saying is that that raised part of the floor is the original floor height, level, etc. And so that's the intrinsic heritage value, and everything else has been changed. And so the city's looking at it saying, keep that section because that's original. Is that what we're saying?
General Manager.
Through you, Lord Mayor, I largely, not everything else that we're conceding to be removed we feel has been changed. Some of it has not previously changed. We just feel that this is the most significant in telling the story of the original use of the tenancy.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Bain. To the General Manager, if that's okay. We heard reference made to John Taylor's report of 2010. Are you familiar with John Taylor?
Through your Lord Mayor, only via his report.
Right, but standing in terms of his expertise in this area, just a general comment: is he well regarded? Is he somebody that the industry or those people involved in this regularly are aware of? Because, as Councillor Gordon said, we know that his report said of little significance. But John Taylor, I think, are you familiar with his work, or are we familiar with his work? You are, Councillor Angie?
I can answer that question. Yeah, he's one of the top heritage architects in WA, so highly regarded and respected.
Thank you. But admin?
Through your Lord Mayor, we are aware of his work, and we did review and endorse the conservation plan when it came in.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to get clarity on the previous response from the General Manager, is the purple shaded section that you referred to under condition 1, is that the original floor, or is it the original floor level?
Through your Lord Mayor, I'll confirm that, but I believe it's the original floor, and there are a couple of original beams that go through that floor into the basement, and that basement was part of the original fabric, which will also be removed if everything is demolished.
Thank you. Actually, that was my second question I was going to ask. The applicant gave some indication that the existing materials could be reused. Could I get a position from the admin on whether or not that would be an acceptable outcome in the situation if they were to retain the materials?
Thanks, TLM. GM?
Through your Lord Mayor, we'd certainly hope at the very least that the existing materials were retained and not discarded, and that they were reused in any redevelopment. Our preference would be to reuse the structure, or to retain that part of the structure. But if council was of a mind to delete condition 1, we certainly, I think there is a condition that relates to retention of the materials and reuse.
Thank you. Any further questions from any councillors? Thank you, councillors. Okay, we'll move then to item 12, firstly, Community Development Alliance reports. And 12.1 is the Economic Development Sponsorship 2022-23, Remix 2023, Summits Proprietary Limited. Councillor Leeser, I know there was a question from you there.
Yes, it was answered. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from any councillors? Councillor Fleeton.
Yes, Lord Mayor. I think I read somewhere in the report that this is a first-time applicant. Is that correct?
Sia?
Could I please invite the General Manager Community Development to answer that question?
Sorry, through the Lord Mayor. Just as per the collection from the elected member, it is a first-time applicant for the city. The event has, however, been supported by the city through sponsorship to the Chamber of Arts and Culture, WA, from 2017 to 2019.
Okay, so in a roundabout way, we have just a follow-up. So it's a long-held event and we're jumping in now with money. If we don't do this, the event still goes ahead, right? All the same programming, all the same input from us.
Through to the GM. Thank you.
Sorry, through the Lord Mayor. We would need to confirm that. The submission has given us some budget details. As I've noted in the response to the question, there's unconfirmed funding from the department, so that has yet to be finalised, and the remainder of the revenue is through ticket sales.
Thanks, GM. Any further questions from any councillors? Councillor Angie.
So what was the level of support through the Chamber of Arts and Culture?
GM.
Through the Lord Mayor, I would need to get those details and provide it in writing.
Great, thank you. Councillors? Okay, then we'll go to 12.2, options for the Safe Night Space for Women after May 2023. I know there was 2 questions from Councillor Angie and a number received from Councillor Bain. So, Councillor Angie, Councillor Bain, any follow-up firstly on your questions?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yeah, the questions were answered, but I imagined there'd be a bit more detail in the response. We could have a bit more detail for next week. So just in relation to, I guess, given that it was a trial, which to me suggests that after the trial you determine whether it goes ahead or not goes ahead, then you're balancing a number of factors. Obviously, we heard the report from Rua on the great work that Safe Night Space is doing and the need for it in the community. That, of course, has to be balanced against the impact on the community. So,
question, Councillor.
well, so that's I'm just explaining why this answer is insufficient. So, to me, this answer's insufficient detail for us to balance the pros and cons of proceeding.
So perhaps to assist the admin, I understand what you're saying. Specifically, what more detail would you require? Because you've asked the question, the admin's answered. So for them to be able to answer...
Yeah, so that's right. So the question was, has the city received any complaints? If so, how many? And can we have a summary of details? So the summary of details was 3 short sentences. I imagined a summary of details would be a bit more extensive than that.
Okay.
I'd like to understand more fully, the impact and the feedback from the community.
So any expansion on the summary of details is what you're looking for?
So a summary to me of details is more than 3 short sentences.
Okay, well, the admin will have the opportunity to consider what additional information they're able to provide. Councillor Bain, was there anything on yours?
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you to the administration for answering some of my questions. Just to add to Councillor Angie's sentiment, I suppose, I guess I asked a question, how many complaints you'd received. You've received 53. And how many complainants were there? So is it 53 complaints from the same person or 53 complaints from 53 people?
GM?
Thank you, through you, Lord Mayor. So the 53 complaints are specifically through the surveillance centre. We don't record details for people that call and record an issue. So those ones don't have the level of detail that I could provide of who that complainant was or if they're repeat complainants. In August of last year, we provided the KPIs for the service agreement with RUA, which indicated the complaints that had come through from RUA. For the total service, they had 16 complaints, which included internal service delivery and also complaints from external. In addition to that, we have had ongoing engagement, particularly with neighbours, some representing groups of people, particularly in the northern and western side of the Rod Evans Centre, in regards to ongoing concerns and issues. They've involved meetings with elected members, also officers, so they have been ongoing in nature as well. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you very much. I wondered whether or not, and I suppose this goes to Councillor Angie's comment around at the end of a trial, you normally would do an assessment of, the pros and cons and the opportunities and the risks of continuing with the project. I wondered whether the administration had assessed any kind of risk around not continuing with a safe night space and what financial impact or the unintended consequence or unintended financial impact that would have on the city.
I'll just say to Councillor Mann, we did have, and I appreciate you're on approved leave at the time, but we did have an elected member engagement session on this topic. So there was information provided to councillors to assist with the decision-making process. But is there anything, General Manager, that you wish to add? No? Okay. Councillor Angie?
I was just going to say, at that session, I actually asked for the information that I asked in the question, so there wasn't the detail provided.
Okay, so we're hearing...
was referring to, so there wasn't the analysis of pros and cons of proceeding, not proceeding, and for us to assess the trial.
So we're hearing from a couple of councillors of the admin. If there is the ability to provide further detail, that would be greatly appreciated by the councillors. Thanks, Gian. Councillor Gordon.
Just a question regarding the increase in costs and how we've determined which additional costs will be borne by the city and which ones will continue to be borne by RUA.
Thank you, through the Lord Mayor. In terms of the table, we've separated it so that if I look at the extension for a 6-month period, the proposed costing is $724,182, and the additional costs for RUA that they would incur have been itemised as $129,206. We've also noted the current cost for 6 months is $540,500. So the table provides those kinds of comparisons. Thank you.
So I guess my question's around how we've determined to pay an extra $200,000 and why that's our cost.
Jan?
Sorry for clarity, this is the quotation provided by RUA with their level of detail that's been included directly in the report as to the reasons why, or the justification why there is a difference in the quoted price from when they submitted their tender in 2021 to some of the additional costs and complexities that have led to a change in the cost.
Councillors? Thank you. Oh yes, Councillor please.
Just continuing on, so that table details roof for security at Safe Night Space 251. Could the city, in the week that we've got before we make the decision, try and guesstimate how much we put into the site in terms of call out, monitoring, response? Thank you.
So yeah, doable. Gian, thank you. Councillors? Thank you. Thanks to the team from RUA. If you do make a dignified exit at this point, if you don't, stay and enjoy the rest. You're most welcome to. But thanks for being here tonight. Item 13 is Infrastructure and Operations Alliance and Commercial Services Alliance reports. There aren't any tonight. But 14, Corporate Services Alliance reports. 14.1 is the monthly financial statements for the month of December 2022. Do we have any questions, councillors? 14.2, Schedule of Accounts paid November 2022. Councillor Bain has an impartiality interest here. Any questions, councillors? 14.3, Schedule of Accounts paid December 2022. Any questions? 14.4, the mid-year statutory budget review. Questions, councillors? 14.5, special budget review reserves. Any questions? Councillor Fleet.
Thanks, Lord Mayor, and thanks to the CFO for all of his work in this report. I just had a question around the proposed transfer to the reserve for the sustainability and resilience, I think it was. There was commentary in the report around the sustainability strategy and the unfunded, I don't think the word liability was used. I just want to get, how did you come up with the figure to put aside to fund that?
Thank you, Councillor Fleet, and through you, CEO, across to the CFO, Michael Kent. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, councillor, that amount was determined not on specific actions unfunded in the strategy, but in terms of recognising that there would be a requirement for funding for sustainability initiatives in the future, and that was the amount of money that I felt could prudently be provided to seed that reserve. That was the amount that was recommended.
Can I just ask a follow-up, please, Lord Mayor?
Yes.
So you haven't gone to, the city is yet to go through the strategy, pull out what the deliverables are, and to start to cost them?
Yes, so that might be across to the General Manager of Planning and Economic Development.
Yes, through you, Lord Mayor, that plan will come to elected members before the end of the financial year and will contain some actions, and we will have some cost estimates against those, but we're not quite at that point yet. And I think it's also worth noting it's not just sustainability initiatives, it's also initiatives that may come out of the report on accelerating residential development. So it's general resilience of our city.
And just one follow-up, is there any administrative burden, or because I remember we had an issue where we tried to move some money out of reserves and it's a protracted process. Are we jumping the gun if we're just going to pull it out in a few months anyway?
CEO. To the CFO.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor, the process that would need to be run if you were to pull the money or want to pull the money out of the reserve would effectively take the same timeline as doing it when we adopt the budget.
Thanks, CFO. Any further questions, councillors? So 14 is done. 14.6, Corporate Business Plan 2022-23 to 2025-26, Progress Report 2 and amendments. Now, Councillor Fleet, I notice there was a bunch of questions from you. Is there anything further?
Just a couple of follow-ups. So page 6 of our handout, there's a response where the city's stated it's not clear why 27 is being referenced. If I read it correctly, if we remove the public toilet facility as a deliverable, we're pulling it out of the entire corporate business plan, which is until 25-26. So it's not going to be potentially looked at until the end of this corporate business plan. Am I reading that correctly?
CEO.
No, the corporate business plan is reviewed every year, so if council make a decision that a toilet facility in the CBD is a priority, then that can be included. So if I could maybe invite the General Manager Planning and Economic Development to add to that comment.
Yes, thank you, through you, Lord Mayor. And the response made an assumption about where that came from, but yes, so the corporate business plan highlights certain priority projects for the first of the 4 years, and if it's not included in this year, it can always be included next year or the year after or any year after that.
Thank you. A few follow-ups. Page 7. So the response to 4, the review of the public toilet plan has been completed in-house, but you're going to put another 300,000 in the next budget, but you're not too sure where you're going to be able to use it or install it. So you'll have 1.3 million squirreled away for something that you don't have a corporate business plan deliverable to actually build anything. Why is the 300,000 being included in the draft budget?
Across to the General Manager, Planning and Economic Development.
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. So I think the 300 has been captured in the long-term financial plan for next year, and that was on the basis that we would find a site for a toilet in the Malls precinct and start looking at a design and delivery. If it's not used for that, it can be used for other infrastructure. The balance of the money that you're referencing is actually a proposal for the Supreme Gardens toilet, and that's a separate deliverable that will be considered by council when it looks at adopting the budget.
Last question on toilets, Lord Mayor,
Sure.
I promise. Surely the city has enough money to build a toilet somewhere. You don't need to take an extra 300,000.
Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. And via the CEO across to Michael Kent, CFO.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, just a observation that one of the questions was also asked by the councillor, talked about money that had previously been collected for the purpose of building a public toilet, and I did provide information in my response that there is currently $405,000 sitting in a provisional capital reserve earmarked for provision of a public toilet. So if council were of a view that they wanted to do that, you could ask for that money to be recalled.
Thanks, CFO. Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Are there any further questions from any councillors? Councillor Gordon.
With the proposal to remove 2 items from the corporate business plan, would it not be prudent to add 2 more in?
Okay. CEO.
At this time in the cycle, we're sitting at the end of February, the ability to actually deliver a project that would be of significance through the business planning process, really we couldn't do anything unless we could turn our mind to it as an executive, but by the time the decision was taken, we'd only have March, April, May, so 4 months to deliver a major project. But again, projects can be determined for the next corporate business plan. I would also add that we have, and it is outlined in the corporate business plan, NOMs, our additional work, which were obviously had arisen over the course of the year. So this year, I don't know off the top of my head, but we have actually delivered or are delivering on a number of NOMs.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, CEO. Any further questions, councillors? Thank you. Then we're going to move to 14.7, delegation of authority and authorisations to employees. Any questions, councillors? Yes, Councillor Gordon.
Are these out of cycle ones that are in addition to the ones previously approved at the end of last year?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. CEO.
Could we please invite the General Manager Corporate Services to respond?
Through the Lord Mayor, yes, we do undertake to update our delegations annually at around June, but there are some times we need to do it more regularly. It's rare. We did it recently for the procurement policy where we updated the delegations at the same time, and in this instance we really need to do so as these relate to a number of acts where the council actually delegates its authorities, etc., directly to the city.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, CEO. Councillor.
Is it open to us to genericise some of the content so that we don't have to amend the delegation of authority just because a new role has changed?
Through to the Chair.
Well, we'd need to consider that a little further, I think. Yeah. So we can take that on notice.
Thank you. Councillors. Let's go then to 15, the Chief Executive Officer reports, and 15.1 is the City of Perth Inquiry Recommendations, Quarterly Progress Update, December 2022. Councillor Fleeton, I notice a number of questions from you. Is there any follow-up there?
Yes, please, Lord Mayor. Question 3 on page 11 of our handout. I just want to make sure I read the answer correctly, so the city's saying that there are no outstanding recommendations for implementation that came from the audit into HR. Is that right? Is that what the city's saying?
CEO, through to the General Manager of Corporate Services.
Yes.
Anything further, Councillor Fleeton? Thank you. Councillors? Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Noting point 10 in the report, my mistake, the 10 recommendations on point 6 in the report, does the department, or has the department given us any feedback that's current to give any indication of how we're tracking?
CEO.
Could I invite the Executive Director, Governance and Policy to answer that question? Thank you.
Thank you, CEO.
Through the Lord Mayor.
Councillor, we're just waiting on a meeting to be organised with the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, and they're the oversight body that will look at the recent tranche of recommendations that have now been closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors? Thanks. Let's go to 17. Is that right? Yep, 17. Notices of which motion has been given, and they'll be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting next week. And 18, matters for which the meeting may be closed. Items 18.1 to 18.4 are designated confidential in accordance with sections 5.232A and 5.232C of the Local Government Act 1995. If any councillors have questions relating to these items, we will need to move behind closed doors and pause the live stream. Do we have any questions? Councillor Gordon? We do. So could we do as just advised and pause side and wishes to rejoin us. Really only rejoining us to say goodbye. So 19, as we restart the live feed. At 19 is urgent business, and this item will be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting. So item 20 then is closure, and there being no further business, I will declare the agenda briefing session closed at 6:12 p.m. and thank admin, members of the public, and councillors, of course, for their attendance. Thank you, everybody. OCM next Tuesday night. Don't miss it.
Could we please all rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis. Thank you.